Now, I bet you're wondering how you'll be hacking and slashing your way through Aldera. Or maybe not. But today on Aetherfall, we talk about the weapons that'll populate loot chests, town shops, and NPCs. For physical weapons, there are 3 different possible damage types: piercing, slashing, and bashing. Each of these have their own advantages and disadvantages. Piercing damage is great for targeted strikes, such as headshots, but can struggle against tankier foes. Slashing can deal damage over time with bleeding and hit multiple targets, but struggles against armor. And bashing can throttle armored foes, but are typically slower than piercing and slashing attacks. Now for some tidbits. Small projectile weapons can be used alongside other one-handed weapons, which means the opportunity for dual crossbows, a throwing knife in one hand and a sword in the other, or other unique builds. Each weapon has an associated speed with its attack, ranging from very slow to instantaneous, as well as an associated noise stat that, while isn't stated, will be intuitive for the players. For example, things such as daggers and throwing knives make almost zero noise, bows slightly more, and so on. One last piece of info before we go into examples is that these items can be infused with specific magic trees to add to the spell effect. Basically, this means flaming swords of death, axes that reap souls, just basic gaming things. Now, let's begin with the melee weapons list, which is in no way exhaustive. We start with short swords, long swords, great swords, katanas, and whatever, any kind of sword you can think of. Let's put them in the game. Most of these will be slashing, though some, such as rapiers, will do piercing damages. Then, there are daggers and tantos, great for slashing and piercing, and great for stealth. Throwing knives can be used for both up-close takedowns and at range. Hand axes, these are great. The small weapons that make you feel the power of a Viking coursing through you. They can both be dual-wielded and thrown as projectiles. War axes and battle axes. These bigger boys are much more powerful than the hand axes, but don't have the throwing option. Javelins and spears and other long boys. Great for keeping enemies at a distance and being thrown for powerful piercing strikes. With enough strength, you can even use spears to lift smaller enemies into the air. Brutal, I know. Hammers, sledgehammers, and mauls. Speaking of brutal, these bashing weapons will break bones and crush armor with ease. These are slow weapons, but come with quite a punch. Maces. Very similar to its blunt cousins, these weapons deal bashing damage, but with the bonus of a bit of piercing with its edges. Brass knuckles, demon claws, fists, etc. These weapons are focused on fast punches, dealing less damage than, say, a sword, but allow you to do different combos than what a sword might be able to do. A lot of the time in games, players have to choose between using an actual weapon and unarmed options. Now, my take on this is, unless the branches of melee and unarmed are truly different paths, with sustainably different fighting options and techniques, then the two trees should be combined together. Players shouldn't be forced to pick perk points that prevent them from having fun. Finally, for melee weapons, we have pipes, wrenches, pitchforks, shovels, etc. Since the game is post-apocalyptic, I want the player to be able to pick up just about anything and use it as a weapon. While these might not be the most effective, they can be the most fun. Imagine you're getting your battle axe knocked out of your hands in the heat of a battle, surrounded by bandits, and all you have is a shovel. It's the type of moment that just oozes roleplay ability. These type of makeshift weapons should also come with upgrades, allowing you to stick with that pitchfork that's been by your side throughout the entire early game. Next, we have the weapons for people who like to fight at range. We start with bows, everyone's favorites. There are one-handed crossbows, which are quick, efficient. You can use one in each hand and the power of instinct to hunt down anything you can. There's the two-handed crossbows, standard issue, stronger than a bow with a longer draw time. There's war bows with a huge size, heavy arrows, and big stopping power. They can pin enemies to walls with enough strength. Compound bows, average all around, good for a generalist. Long bows, great range, but a longer draw time. Then we have a few more non-bow projectiles. Things such as throwing stars and knives. They're great for characters who don't want to lug around a full bow everywhere they go. While they don't do nearly as much damage as other larger projectiles, they can be thrown very quickly and very quietly. Perfect for assassins or warriors looking to take off a bit of damage before using melee. Then, things get interesting with guns. Yes, for those who don't know, there are guns in the game. These are mostly experimental, meaning both the ammo and the guns themselves will be very hard to find. In case you want to watch the first video on one of the guns, you can see that here. Yeah, right there in the corner. First, there is the LAMG/HAMG, which we've already covered. It's known as the Brimstone gun by Zaterian soldiers. The light and heavy Aether machine guns provide incredible firepower for the player at an incredibly high magical cost. The heavy variant is stationary when firing, but decimatingly powerful. The light Brimstone can only be gotten through the main quest line in the Nomanians. Despite its name, the light variant is also quite heavy, and slows down the user while holding it. It has some ability to modify, but lacks the amount of modability of some of the other guns in the game. The ARMK-1, which stands for Aether Rifle Mark I. It's one of the only guns in Aetherfall. This weapon is colloquially known as Angel's Kiss, harnessing magical energy from the surrounding area or the user before releasing it into a beam. The weapon can also be loaded with gems as ammo. It functions like an assault rifle, but can be modified both cosmetically and technically to change its stats, allowing you to switch between close quarters, all-around capabilities, or being a sniper rifle. Magic missiles. This prototype missile launcher can shoot either electric, ice, or fire AoE attacks. It can be upgraded to allow you to adjust elemental types on the fly. The elemental thrower known as the Dragon's Breath. It's a flamethrower that also allows you to cross between ice and electricity. Like the magic missile, elements can be toggled on the fly by the player. Finally, there are utility options. Things such as potion bombs that can be made at chemistry and incantation stations, can be damage oriented like fire and ice, or focus on tactical advantages like slowing and blinding enemies. There's traps, things such as bear traps, spikes, and tripwires. They're great for stealthy hunters that wait for prey. And that concludes the weapons of Aetherfall. Is there anything that you think I missed? Think big and think weird. I want whatever crazy ideas for weapons you have. That'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Next time, we'll talk about the other option for damage in the game. Every magician's favorite, magic. Until then, this has been Brian, and I hope to see you all for the next video. Bye for now.